Good evening, Bibi Fahodier. The day's date is September 6th, 6261. This I have been told. We have with us the distinguished Dr. Jeremiah Wright. He a liberation theologian, a critic of empire as well as preemptive strikes. And I was thinking about encountering Dr. Wright today. I thought about the concept that's been referred to as the social gospel as articulated by Walter Rauschenbusch. This was the bane of oppressive doctrines. This doctrine, however, was countered by the capitalist class when they instituted what was known as the prosperity gospel in an attempt to demonize socialism. We recognize that the association of socialism with Russia was done with a similar intent. The basic tenet is that God will make you rich. Thus, you don't need unions or regulations. It eliminates agency on the part of the individual as well as the community collective. Of course, when we turn our attention to liberation theology, I became introduced when I was living in Colorado to this concept by Dr. Cone, who's been referred to as one of the greatest theologians of the 20th century. Like Dr. Wright, James Cone wrote, "Any message that is not related to the liberation of the poor in a society is not a message of Christ." Secondly, any theology indifferent to the theme of liberation is not a Christian theology. If God is not involved in human history, the question we have to raise is this theology useless? This is a time for reflection, a time for self-examination. To quote Dr. Wright, suffice it to say, this is indeed the beginning of sorrows. I'm here with Dr. Wright, as well as historians Macaru and brothers Amos. Gentlemen, take it wherever you want to take it. I have the best seat in the house.
Bibi Fahodier, African Liberation Media family. I'd like to welcome the Right Reverend Dr. Jeremiah Wright Jr. to our program tonight. Reverend Wright, welcome. Hotel.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. It's an honor, sir.
Yes, the honor is all ours, and we want to be the first, Dr. Wright. We know that you have an Earth Day coming up in a few weeks, so we want to be the first here at African Liberation Media to wish you a blessed Earth Day in a couple of weeks, and we praise the Holy Creator for giving us your presence, not only here but to the entire African world, and we just hope that you continue to be blessed. And we wanted to say that first and foremost. We wanted to get that out there. We know that that will be a great day, for the African world and particularly for the Wright family.
Thank you.
So let's do just a little bit of background. We are students of Dr. John Henry Clark, who taught us that all history is a current event, and some people probably know snippets of Reverend Wright's history, based on what's been in the media since 2007, 2008. But for those who do not know, he was born in Philadelphia in 1941. Grew up in the Germantown section, attending a high school there that was overwhelmingly white and I think extremely Jewish. And he's a product of a tremendous family of educators. His father with a master's degree in divinity, his mother two master's degrees, uh, one in math, I think one in education, and also a PhD. So of course, with those kinds of genes, plus those of the other Africans, his great tremendous grandfather who spent 20 years in chattel slavery and went on to get his divinity degree in 1902, starting the school when he was 20, believe it or not. These are the things that African people were able to produce when we had strong black families. As Dr. Amos Wilson says, the family is the basis for any type of power any community has. And we were certainly here because of the strength of our families, fighting through chattel slavery, uh, the promise and failure of Reconstruction, American apartheid, and what we are dealing with today. Uh, just a couple of things, Reverend Wright. You uh, grew up in Philly, but you spent most of your summers in Virginia, I think, where your parents were from. And of course, this was during the apartheid era. Of course, as you were growing up, people were how people were being lynched. Emmett Till and Mac Charles Parker, many other Harry T. and Harriet Moore in Florida, all those types of things. What can you say happened during that period of time that they would shape your life later on?
I guess being a part of a Virginia Union University family. My father and my mother met at Virginia Union, got married as soon as he finished his first master's, and she finished undergrad in 1938. Her brother, John, finished Virginia Union and then went to Oberlin to seminary. Her brother Tom and Welton both finished Virginia Union. The only sibling that did not finish Virginia Union was her sister, who was a music major. Virginia Union at the time did not have music major.
Mhm.
Her brother Tom became the president of Virginia Union. John was the pastor. Her brother John was the pastor of Bank Street Baptist Church in Norfolk, where Sam Proctor was a member. That strong, rich Virginia Union background, going to Virginia, if we went to Grandma and Grandpa's house, or my maternal grandparents, it was in the country, Gravel Hill, Surrey County. But to go to Richmond meant to go to Virginia Union, where Tom was on the faculty. I worked in his campaign for House, I think they called that House of Burgesses,
Mhm.
and seeing the raw, open racism up close and personal, not only from the signs, colored, white, not only from the restaurants, not only from the department stores, but in politics, helped shape my thinking and understanding. But don't let Philadelphia off the hook. I know that's Kelly Harris's hometown. But in Philly, when I was preteen and teenager, we had two YWCAs, one white and one colored.
Mhm.
The white one had the pool. The colored one did not have a pool. The colored kids and Boy Scouts were allowed to use the white pool once a week, one day a week, and then they would empty the pool out, clean it out to get all the germs out. So I saw segregation in Philly, not just in Virginia. When I got to Virginia Union, my wife, Esther Janet, and I were involved in the sit-ins trying to desegregate the stores, the department stores. You could not try on clothes in a department store.
Right.
We always
Right.
hear about the lunch counters, but you could not, if you liked the suit, you had to take it out and hope it fit, hope it was close to your size because they would not take it back because it touched a black body. So seeing that kind of racism up close, there was one beach we had. Now today, Virginia Beach is a big tourist attraction. When I was at Virginia Union, we were not allowed to go to Virginia Beach. We went to Buckrow Beach, the colored beach, with a line, a rope, actual rope, extending out into the water, where the white folk were on that side of the rope and the colored people on this side.
You actually, I actually went to, believe it or not, Reverend Wright, in the 1970s. I went up to the Hampton Jazz Festival, and uh, everybody said they were hanging out at the beach during the day. And I'm gonna tell you what, you could have the white beach. All of those fine sisters down there on Buckrow Beach, buddy. I was in heaven. I'm telling you that right now. You, it, hey, you
Let
can
the
have it.
church say,
So I actually did. I actually did go to Buckrow Beach. When I went to the Hampton Jazz Festival. I think it was some around 1973 or somewhere in that neighborhood. Uh, Now, let me is Virginia Union one of those United Church of Christ schools? I know Fis, Tougaloo, Talladega. Is it one Clark, Atlanta? Is it one of those also, or was it funded by another Christian denomination?
it's an HBCU, but it's funded by Baptist. It's a Baptist school.
Okay, yeah, definitely knows the HBCU. Growing up here and there, they were at that time. All of them were in the in the CIAA, and there was really nothing quite like those CIAA tournaments. So you go to Virginia Union, uh, and 1959 and 1961, and just excelling in a number of areas, and you drop out to join the U.S. Marine Corps.
Hoo-ha.
Uh, yeah, uh, sent to Paris Island. So tell us what led you to drop out of Virginia Union, and I'm sure that there had to be a whole lot of pressure from your parents there. What led you to drop out of Virginia Union and join the U.S. military?
I would say two primary factors. Number one, since the time I was early teenage, I wanted to be a seminary professor. I mentioned Sam Proctor, my dad, my Uncle John, all finished seminary. Dr. Samuel DeWitt Proctor finished Boston Theological. In fact, he was one of Martin Luther King's mentors.
Hmm.
So around the dinner table, whenever he came to Philly to preach, he was still my mother and father because her brother was his pastor. And I heard these conversations about what the Hebrew Bible said as opposed with the English translation, as opposed with the Latin translation, as opposed with the Greek translation. I became fascinated with theological education. I wanted to be a seminary professor. But in the black church, you say you're interested in ministry, you're going to be a preacher.
Mm-hmm.
I was not going to be a preacher. I wanted to be a seminary professor. Going into my last year of college, 61, everybody said to start talking about seminary and being a preacher, being prepared for the pastor. And I kept saying, no, I'm not going to be a pastor. Well, you got to get licensed to preach, trial sermon, get licensed. Next stop is to be ordained in the ministry. No, no, I'm going to be a professor. Nobody was hearing me. The second factor running simultaneously is my best friend. My best friend who lived one block from me in Philly was the first person to finish high school in his family. He persevered until he finished. He was 19 and a half when he graduated from high school. It took him that many years. He kept getting flunking, but he would not give up. He went straight from high school into Paris Island and then to Lebanon, Lebanon crisis.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Marine, and because of his being in the Marine Corps, that was the only service branch I heard about, knew about, and was enamored by. So those two factors when I quit school was to go to Paris Island to become a Marine, like my best friend. And in terms of people saying, well, you're going to be a pastor, you're going to be a preacher, I would like the old cell phone commercial. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Brother McCarry, I have a question. Dr. Wright, you have said that 90% of African American preachers are not seminary trained. Have you seen that trend improve, or has it gotten worse?
I've seen it improve, particularly and especially because of women in ministry. Unfortunately, the churches that are not Episcopal churches with an episcopacy like AME, CME, AME, Zion, United Methodist, Anglican, the Free Church, Congregational Style Baptist, Church of God in Christ, the Pentecostal family, they are still in the 19th century when it comes to women in ministry. But in every seminary across the country, when you look at the student body is somewhere between 49 to 51% female.
Mm.
And because of the large number of women entering ministry, I've seen that percentage change. When I came to Chicago in 1969, we had one Baptist minister who had been in seminary.
Mm.
One.
Wow. Wow.
You look at the big names when I came, Clay Evans, who incidentally became my pastor. I love Clay. Clay couldn't spell seminary. Donald Parson, great hoop, great hoop. C.L. Franklin hoop, no seminary. C.L. Franklin himself, no seminary. All the big houses, major houses, no seminary. Back in 69. Today that's changed. Today Reginald Sharp, who pastors Clay's Church Fellowship, has an MDiv and a doctorate and is working on a PhD. It's changed radically in terms of male Baptist Church of God in Christ. Bishop Blake finished seminary. His son did not. And it looks like his son will succeed him as he steps down from West Angeles Church of God in Christ. But Charles Harrison Mason is one of the schools at ITC. He is the founder of Church of God in Christ. So there's a large number of black seminarians at ITC who are students of Charles Harrison Mason Church of God in Christ going to seminary. It has changed radically, Jack.
Thank you.
So Reverend Wright, you are in the Marine Corps, and then you had to transfer to the Navy. Of course, this is during the Vietnam era, and I think when the Obama controversy exploded in 2008, a lot of people were surprised to see a picture of you with President Lyndon Baines Johnson, who I think was having some kind of heart procedure. You were a cardiopulmonary technician in the U.S. Navy. So, everybody's like, this radical black man was standing there with President Johnson. My goodness, was he trying to smother him or what? You were actually attending to him because he had to have several heart procedures. Tell us about that particular experience. Working there in the in the hospital. In the Navy. Obviously, this is we still dealing with apartheid America, and the country's at war. Certainly Johnson built up the war after the Gulf of Tonkin frame up. And the route from there, I know it goes through Howard University, but the route from that picture there with the U.S. Navy to Black Liberation Theology, and I know that's a lot to cover, but just in as briefly as you can, just tell us about how all of that came about.
Well, most people don't realize, unless they're service people, that the Marine Corps is a part of the Navy. We used to call in the Marine Corps, we used to call the Navy our taxi cab service.
Mm-hmm.
Marine means water, like mariner, Silas Marner. The Marine Corps has a 4-star general over the Commandant of the Marine Corps, who is under the 5-star Admiral of the Navy. The school I applied for, cardiopulmonary technician school, was only taught by the Navy. Now, if I was coming from the outside, like the Army guys and the Air Force guys who came to school there, you just apply for school. Marine, no, you got to be in the Navy. Transfer into the Navy, get an inter-service transfer into the Navy. Since you are a part of the Navy, you come out from under the Commandant, 4-star, and get under the Admiral of the Navy, who's under the Secretary of the Navy. So I had to write to the Secretary of the Navy to get that school. Once I got to school, I'm now in the Navy. I'm no longer in the Marine Corps. We had Army sergeants. We had Air Force flight sergeants who were students, but no Marines. Why? Because Marines are part of the Navy. So I transferred into the Navy to get that school. Johnson had a heart. You mentioned CIAA. Johnson had a heart that sounded like competition between Grambling and Florida A&M. Marching, where the normal heartbeat goes lub dub sh, lub dub sh, lub dub sh. Johnson's heartbeat went like Florida A&M. So whatever kind of procedure he had to be monitored. As a matter of fact, when he was inaugurated after Kennedy's assassination, our ambulance was right underneath him. He's up on the platform. We're down here in case he had a heart attack. or cardiac arrest. In that picture, you remember there's a physician doing this.
Mm-hmm.
The physician was showing him the size of the scar. He had gallbladder surgery, but he couldn't go into any kind of knife without being monitored cardiovascularly, which meant us. We had to scrub in at 3 o'clock in the morning so that he could be put under, operated on, and be fully awake and talking by 9 a.m. when the stock market opened.
Hmm.
So we had to first we had to get top secret clearance. Then we had to spend the night there to be scrubbed in at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm writing my memoirs, and one of the backstories in the memoirs that is not shown in that picture is how I got jacked up. Parenthesis. Bill Moyers is in that picture with me, but you can't see Bill. You can only see the tip of his head. Backstory is how I got jacked up by the Secret Service before that picture was taken. Surgery is over like 7 in the morning to give him 2 full hours to wake up, have a meal, and be talking. So we can't leave the OR suite at all until he's transferred to the presidential tower. So having been there at 3 o'clock, around 7:30, quarter to 8, I told Landry, I'm going to get some coffee. Now there's nobody else in the suite except Secret Service guys and the operating crew. I came out, and every door I passed, there was a Secret Service man stationed there. My daughter Janet, my oldest daughter, says they were all talking to their watches. Every door I passed, mumble, 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 mumble. I nodded at them, went to the staff lounge, got my coffee, and came back sipping my coffee. Same routine, mumble, 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 mumble. When I got to our suite, cardiovascular suite, which is 5 steps above the operating room, so you can look down into the operating room, monitoring your lead, your electrocardiograph leads, and your blood pressure leads. I took 2 steps up and said, no, I better go back in the OR and check the paste on his electrocardiogram leads. Because if that paste dries up, you're going to get a false reading. It's going to look like he's having a heart attack.
Mm.
Let me go ahead and put some more paste on. I turned to walk back into the OR suite. Just cat Secret Service, Lightfoot, Indian. Grabbed my arm with the coffee in it. I had hot coffee from my neck down to my testes.
Mm.
Arm up behind my neck. I'm screaming and hollering. He told me, I got him, I got him. What happened was, with my OR cap on, all morning long they had seen me behind my mask. That's all they had seen. Coming back, I had the mask down to get the coffee. They saw the mustache.
Mm.
They knew I was a terrorist.
Wow.
Landry heard me screaming. He comes out the door. He starts laughing. I said, "This is not funny. I'm burning from coffee. My arm is up behind my neck." He said, "You've seen him all morning." He pulled my mask back up. The apology was, "Oh." That's all he said, "Oh."
Mm. Wow.
So that picture is taken up in the presidential suite. Once he's talking, stock market's open. Newspapers can now report the president is out of surgery, he's doing fine, and not be lying about it. And we go from OR Suite 4 up to the presidential. We could not leave the hospital the whole time he was there. In fact, I called my mother. The third night he was there, one of the nurses asked me to give him his IM shot, intramuscular, in his hip. She had trained us on it, so she knew we knew what we were doing. I gave him a shot. We worked 4 hour shifts, 4 hours on, 4 hours off,
Wow.
round the clock, in
Wow.
case he had any cardiac episodes. I got back down to the lab and called mother and said, Mommy, I just saw the first ass of the nation.
In more ways than one.
She said, did it look any different from the other asses you've seen? I said, no, ma'am, I didn't think so. Look at that picture, Michael Rue. I want you to look at that picture because the thing that amazed me about President Johnson is his ears.
Yeah.
His ears began at his eyebrow and went to the bottom of his chin. I couldn't stop staring at his ears.
Yeah. You know,
Lady Bird, Linda, and his baby daughter put Richard Pryor, Nicki Minaj, and Cardi B to shame. They could cuss worse than anybody you ever thought about. Here, with a southern drawl cuss. They cuss Hubert Humphrey. He want to be the goddamn president. Tell him I ain't dead yet. I'm dead is fine. With a whole lot of expletives in between.
you know what Rap Brown said about Johnson's ears when he met with him in the White House after Bloody Sunday. He said Johnson's ears were so big if he could learn to flap them, he could fly.
That's true.
That's what he said. So you come out of the military and
Yes, okay.
you go to you go to Howard.
Well, yeah, I went too fast.
Okay.
I had to spend 4 years in the Navy, 2 years Marine Corps, that's 6 years. I was in my senior year at Virginia Union when I quit. But now I'm married with 2 children. Both my daughters, oldest daughters, were born at Bethesda Naval Hospital. We did not have the money to move back down to Richmond, wife and 2 babies. So I transferred to Howard. They took 17 hours away from me so I could fulfill the residency requirements. They weren't going to let me walk in there as a senior. So I got out of service June 16th, started Howard June 19th, took 3 courses in the summer school, went straight into fall semester, and finished my undergraduate work with a full academic year and 3 courses in the summer. Went straight into graduate school, summer school, 3 courses, 15 courses each fall semester, spring semester. That made 30. So I completed my master's in 1 year in the summer.
Wow.
And my 15 minutes of fame, long before they were famous, I was a teaching assistant for John Lavelle, which meant I got to grade the papers of Debbie and Felicia Allen.
Wow.
You know, Felicia Allen is Felicia Rashad.
Right.
Yeah,
How
I
about
graded their papers. I saw Debbie, and I said, "Do you remember me?" She said, "Yes." You better give me
that? So the United Church of Christ starts this
Now, Howard University was started as a UCC school.
right.
The chapel there named Jeremiah Rankin Chapel. His brother was the pastor of First Congregational Church of D.C. And the Divinity School of Howard was started in the sanctuary of First Congregational Church of Washington, D.C.
Right.
Now, I was ordained at Mount Calvary Baptist Church in Rockville, Maryland. And people, my father's successor at the Grace Baptist Church of Germantown was my line brother at Virginia Union. And he would, every time I was there, he had me every year. He would have me have lunch with his seminarians. And the seminarians asked me, how did you end up being United Church of Christ? you were raised American Baptist. How did you wind up being a clergy person in the United Church of Christ? I said it was a deep, deep theological issue, hunger. Now, they thought I was talking about the Heifer Project or the UCC's position on hunger as opposed to ABC, American Baptist position on hunger. I said, no, hunger. I was hungry. I had a wife and 2 kids, and I needed some money to put groceries on the table. So I said, have license, we'll preach. That was back in the days of what was his name, Jack Paladin. Have gun, we'll shoot.
Have gun will travel, right?
Have license, we'll preach. Whosoever will, let them call. I went downtown, put an application in United Methodist Church, Disciples of Christ Church, United Church of Christ Church. Whosoever will, let them call. Here am I, send me. And I ended up pastoring Trinity United Church of Christ. Well, it was so small, I was in graduate school. I said, I can handle both. I forgot to tell the key of that. Trinity Church had 87 members. You could pass it out with your eyes closed. In fact, our church was so small, I memorized all the phone numbers and addresses of the members. I ain't had nothing else to do except schoolwork. And the only difference, when I told my father I had applied to the United Church of Christ, he got on a plane, left Philly to come to Chicago to spend the whole day with me, to talk me out of that, telling me to come back to Philly, finish my doctoral work in Philly. I said, you don't have a history of religions department in any school in Philly. What, major in church history, major in something else? I said, no, Dad, I like the history of religions approach. So after talking to me all day long on Thanksgiving Day, 10 o'clock at night, he said to me, well, we're going to be in the same armed services, under the same commander-in-chief. We just be wearing different color uniforms. You're going to have a uniform say UCC. My uniform will say ABC.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So they started this church,
76.
Trinity Church, and they wanted to cater to, I guess you would call it, the bourgeois blacks,
Yeah,
but the community around it was more of a grassroots community, and the community changed right up under them. As you said, they were having trouble attracting people, and only had 87 members when you came, which I think you grew to somewhere in the neighborhood of around 10,000. But when you came there, did they already have their slogan, unashamedly black and unapologetically Christian, or was that something
yeah.
that you started?
My predecessor coined that phrase. One of the jobs I had while pastoring an 87-member church, I had 3 or 4 other little jobs. One of them was working for the Association of Theological Schools, which is the accrediting body for all seminaries in the country. And it was a twofold job. One, we had to collect in 1969, 70, 71, collect everything written by or about blacks in religion of all denominations in print in the country. More than spin collection. At Howard, Fisk Jubilee collection, Schaumburg collection, collect everything written to compile a bibliography of written materials on the Black Church in America, all denominations. Second part of the job was to interview every black pastor in the Chicago metropolitan area who had finished seminary. Primary question, they wanted to know, did seminary prepare you for working in a black church? The answer was overwhelmingly no, because the curriculum was designed for white pastors, Lutheran, Unitarian, American Baptist, United Methodist. Reuben Shears, who wound up being my predecessor. Reuben Shears, in his interview, said what a lot of blacks did not understand, E. Franklin Fraser did not understand, and a lot of whites did not understand, is that coming out of the Black Revolution was a whole generation of blacks who were now unashamedly black, where we used to be ashamed of being black. My age, and I'll be 80 next week, if I call somebody black, my complexion, I had a behind whipping coming. It did not become popular. Popular 68, James Brown, say it loud,
Black and
I'm
I'm
black
proud.
and proud. Coming out of that generation is blacks who are no longer ashamed of the word black. In fact, they took what was meant as something negative and turned it into something positive. I don't ask nobody nothing, I don't ask nobody nothing, just open up the door, I'll get it myself.
Right.
Unashamed of being black. Almost. Tony Browder, my close friend Bob Asa Hilliard, Naeem Akbar, Wade Nobles, the whole Nile Valley Civilizations Group, Paul Coates, that generation of blacks.
Right.
We're not ashamed of being black and claiming our blackness. And unapologetically Christian, Reuben said. Why did he say that? Chicago, where our church sits, is the home of the Kemetic Institute. Chicago is the home of the Nation of Islam. Chicago is the home of the Black Hebrew Israelite nation. Chicago is the home of the Moorish Temple. And all of us have family members who are in all those groups trying to tell us to stop following the white man's religion. No, we don't apologize for being Christian because Christianity started in the Nile Valley. We don't run from Kemetic Institute. We don't run. In fact, I used to tell Conrad Worrell. In fact, I told him Bob Asa, reminded him of Bob Asa's funeral. The only reason the Nation of Islam never took off and only has 40,000 members nationwide is because they ain't got no music. And I told Conrad, I said, y'all ain't got no music either. He said, yes, we do. We take Christian songs and just put Horus, Isis, Osiris, Hatshepsut, we substitute those names with y'all's tunes. But
Exactly.
instead of running from people who are Black Hebrew Israelite, who are Moorish Temple, who are Nation of Islam, who are Kemetic, engage in a conversation. They're different. That doesn't mean somebody's deficient because they're different. They believe something differently, that's all.
Right.
I got to one of in my book, Africans Who Shaped Our Faith, I describe this conversation I had with one of my Christian mentors. He's now going to be with the ancestors. Frederick G. Sampson, who used to pastor Tabernacle Baptist Church in Detroit. I was in Detroit 2 weeks before the Million Man March. His daughter, Frida, came every night at the revival. Her daddy called me. He said, Jeremiah, I'm not calling to argue. I'm calling for clarification. So what's that? He said, Frida, whenever you're in town, Frida comes to hear you. I don't know what you're saying over there, but she won't come across the city to hear Daddy. So whatever you're saying, keep on saying it. But my clarification is this. She tells me you're pushing the Million Man March. I said, Reverend, we're taking 500 members to the Million Man March. He said, well, that's what I need clarification on. I said, what you need clarification? He said, that's a Muslim march. I said, no, it is not, sir. It is not a Muslim march. What do you mean? Louis Farrakhan. I said, Louis Farrakhan assigned Zaire Ali to organize the Muslims. He assigned Ben Chavis to organize the Christians. But as of August, Ben Chavis, who was ordained by Pearl Clegg's father, does not know the black church. He had not contacted one bishop in the AME church. He had not contacted one bishop in the AME Zion church. He had not contacted one bishop in the full gospel. And if you don't talk to them bishops, you ain't getting nowhere. Frank Reed and I split up the black churches in August. Now the march is in October. And I called all the non-Methodist church people, caught hell from them because nobody had contacted him in August. And I explained Ben Chavis was supposed to do that. And I don't fuss about what has been. Can we count on you to support the march? Overwhelmingly got yes. I said, but do the numbers, Doc, do the numbers. There are 40,000 black Muslims in the country, male and female. That leaves 960,000 folk who will be on that mall who are not Muslim. I got members every week who come home from church and turn on the minister because when he speaks, we listen. They ain't joining the nation. What he's saying is so accurate and so on point that we listen to him. 900, 9,000, 900,000, 60 folk ain't joining the nation.
Mm-hmm.
What Jeremiah still, the Bible says, be not unequally yoked with those who don't believe like you. I said, well, let's forget it. Let's talk about marriage for just a minute. You'll get that on the way home. I said, let's stick with that. There are people on that mall on the 15th of October, 1995, who believe that after Jesus came, there came another prophet named Muhammad with another sacred text called the Quran. That's what they believe. There's going to be another group who believe that after Muhammad came, Wallace Fard came, and Wallace Fard, Elijah Muhammad, came after Elijah, came after Muhammad. His chief spokesman used to be Malcolm X, El Haj El Malik El Shabazz. Now his chief spokesman is Louis Farrakhan. That's what they believe. Their sacred text is the Quran. In addition, on that mall, there are going to be people who believe in Buddhism. Tina Turner is not the only black Buddhist. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is a black Buddhist. They're going to believe black Buddhists believe you chant. That's what they believe. There are going to be some other folk from the Kemetic Institute who believe in Isis, Osiris, and Horus. In fact, they believe Horus rose from the dead just like Jesus. That's what they believe. I said you also have some folk there who are black nationalists who don't believe in nothing. They believe religion is just appropriate for the masses. That's what they believe. But all that believing stuff, there gonna be other folk like me and like you, Reverend, who believe there's no other name given among men under the heavens whereby we must be saved other than the name of Jesus. That's what we believe. But belief is theology. The march is not about theology. The march is about sociology.
Right.
What do you mean, Reverend? I say, here's what I mean. What is the most important fact in your life sociologically? The fact that you're an African American male or the fact that you're an African American Christian? He says, Jeremiah, I have to go along with Paul and say that I'm a Christian. I said, that's because you're not listening. Let me ask you again. What is the most important sociological fact in your life? The fact that you're an African American male or the fact that you're an African American Christian? He said, Jeremiah, I gotta say I'm a Christian. I said, Doc, what's your birth certificate say, nigga? What's your driver's license say? That's sociology. When them cops pulled out of them cars and started whipping Rodney King's head, they didn't care if he said, praise you, Jesus, hallelujah, alhamdulillah, Allah Akbar. They didn't care what he said. They whipped him because he's a black male in this country.
Macro,
And
that's
you
that
having
was a
different or having different beliefs doesn't make somebody deficient. They just believe that we don't gonna fight over it. Louis Farrakhan don't try to convert me, and I don't try to convert Louis. He took me to Libya with him for the 15th Jamahidiyah. And the first night we were there, he asked me to pray, asked me to lead us in prayer. I said, maybe join hands. We joined hands. I said, Father God, in the name of Jesus. Just like when he comes to Trinity Church, he's going to say, Bisrahim Allah, Allah Akbar. He don't stop being a Muslim because he's in Trinity. I don't stop being a Christian because I'm in Libya. We don't try to convert each other. We have different beliefs.
Exactly. As
We'll
Malcolm
say,
said, leave your religion at the door.
yes, sir.
Let me ask you this, Reverend Wright. One of the things that you were talking about in this interview I saw that you were talking about how the Jewish students in the high school you attended, uh, they when they left school, they went for further cultural and perhaps political education in their synagogues. And you were saying this is one of the shortcomings or one of the issues that the black church has failed to address. Can you discuss that, particularly, let's say, in our urban centers today, where we see so much self-destruction? I mean, you were in Chicago when the heroin epidemic struck, and there was tremendous amount of violence in our community in 1974, and you also saw the devastating impact of the crack epidemic with over 900 black people being killed in cities like Chicago in the 1990s. Um, can you talk about that? I heard you say that this was one of the real issues that that needed to be addressed.
both Baba Isa and Elijah Malik al-Shabazz said, why would you send your child to school to be taught by your enemy? Why would you send your child to school to be taught by people who don't like you, people who believe you're inferior? Jews send their kids to synagogue school to learn their own history and culture. And I maintain that the black church used to do that when we were segregated, particularly in the South. Once we got desegregated legally, never actually, we stopped teaching our kids their own history, their own culture, their own languages. And unfortunately, unlike our Jewish brothers and sisters. We have so many different denominations, we can't even speak to each other. We tried a Sabbath school at our church, and because we're a metropolitan church, we ran into the problem of gang turf. My son would have to get on transportation and cross two different gang areas to get to church. Now, he's going to pass three black churches to get to our church, but those black churches ain't going to teach nothing black because they teach white evangelical theology, where color really doesn't matter. And what's all this black stuff? Trinity is too black. It doesn't matter what color he is. Well, if it doesn't matter, why don't you tell the truth about it? And the Association of Black Psychologists proves that children with a strong cultural foundation are less likely to get into trouble than kids without that kids who want to be like Mike. Mike don't want nothing to do with us. Mike don't come south of Roosevelt Boulevard. My barber just showed me today a pair of Kanye West shoes. He bought them for $50. $50. If you buy them wholesale, $350. For Kanye want to be like Mike. Well, he did. He married Kardashian. She getting rid of his cray self, though. But we have a dearth of knowledge in the public school system. Philadelphia has freedom schools. Papa Aces did a whole curriculum for infusion of black curriculum, starting in Kemet. Getting the teachers to teach it is something else. So I was a member of the Governor's Commission on Amistad, where our state legislature passed a law that the Amistad curriculum had to be taught kindergarten through 12. It's on paper just like Brown versus Board of Education. Getting the teacher to do it is something else, particularly downstate, where they ain't teaching nothing black.
Right. Absolutely. So I was flipping channels, and I knew that HBO had this documentary called "In Pursuit of a More Perfect Union" about President Obama. Certainly it was nothing that really had held any interest for me, but in the process, they were talking about his announcement, the lead up to his announcement to run for president, which I think was in February of 2007, and I heard them mention the name Reverend Jeremiah Wright, so that got my attention, and so I watched the most of the rest of that particular. I think it's a 3-part documentary. I watched it through Obama's Philadelphia speech, and I saw the interviews that you did, and I was glad that that they did reach out to you and to Shirley Sherrod, to get you all's perspective on on exactly what happened. So you were to be, I think, the spiritual or religious advisor to the Obama campaign, and then all of a sudden, some of his handlers, or perhaps some of the people who chose him, became concerned because of your teaching of Black Liberation Theology, and they immediately began to attack you first. Convincing Obama to remove you as the person who I think was supposed to deliver the prayer before he made his announcement. And then, as the corporate media does, when they feel that their power could perhaps be threatened, they singled you out by splicing together various sermons, particularly the sermon, the divine reciprocity sermon on what the events of 9/11 2001, and they used that to drive a wedge between you and Obama, and effectively remove you from the campaign. Uh, so let me ask you this: did you have a sense, or that this is possibly something that would happen? If Obama, if the campaign caught fire, I mean, I don't think anyone expected him to be a serious contender. I don't even think he expected to do as well as he did against Hillary Clinton. But was there anything earlier on that gave you some indication that this might happen, that they might try to use you as a bogeyman, or as something to derail the campaign?
Operate long before the campaign. In fact, February of before the Springfield announcement,
Mm-hmm.
there is a journal called Religion and Ethics. I don't know if it's still in publication or not. It was in publication. You can Google it. Bob Abernethy, Nethy, not Abernathy.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Abernethy was the editor. He interviewed me when Senator Obama won the Senate election. And after his Audacity of Hope speech at the Democratic Convention, he asked me, did I think Senator Obama would run for the presidency? I said two things. Number one, that's a question you have to ask Michelle Obama, because she has to give permission. I was not being sarcastic. She and he both had a problem with his being away from home so much downstate in Illinois as a state senator, being elected U.S. senator would take him away from home more. And if he got nominated, even more. But the second thing is, I said, and I'm on record, I'm putting it in that document, Journal, Religion and Ethics Journal. If he does run, he will have to distance himself from me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on record saying that. Bob said, why? I said, number one, when his Jewish friends find out that Louis Farrakhan is a personal friend of mine, that will cost him votes in the Jewish community. Number two, if his Cuban constituency in Miami, who don't like black folk, if they find out not only that I have been to Cuba 3 times, but I have personal friends in Cuba and I preached a dedication sermon for the Martin Luther King Center in Havana. I got friends on the faculty at Matanza Seminary that will cost him that Cuban vote, Hispanic vote in Florida. So he would have to distance himself with me. The fact that he would have to distance himself came as no surprise. The way he did it is what came as a surprise.
When you say the way he did it, what are you referring to?
Brother McCarroll, I understand you go to the temple. Kemet, your leader said all white people are devils. Do you agree with that?
Okay.
I disagree. Next question. They said, no, that's not enough. They being David
Axelrod.
Axelrod and Rahm Emanuel, both of whom are staunch Zionists.
Mm-hmm.
And I argued with Obama in my living room. I said, those Zionist friends of yours are not going to let you read anything I send you, but you need to read something about Palestinians. And when they find out my position on Palestinians, that will hurt you. Send it to me, I'll read it. I said, don't lie. They're not going to let you read. They're like the two seraphim, one on either side of the throne. Anything with my name on it, they're going to keep you from reading. Then you can add to that Valerie Jarrett. But stone Zionists, I mean, bona fide Zionists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the fix was definitely in. The speech that they used, that they chopped up, they gave it the name "Goddamn America." Was a speech
title of the sermon is Confusing God and Government.
Confusing God and Government, right? Okay, and that would be based on because you make a distinction between Christianity and the political religion that Constantine developed, right?
Right.
Right.
And before Constantine Macaru, have you ever read The Doctrine of Discovery?
I have not.
Google it, you'll love it. 1500s, The Doctrine of Discovery, where the Pope gave permission first to the Portuguese invaders, then to the Spanish invaders.
Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with Pope Nicholas the Fifth, right? Okay, the verses, right?
To take the land of the people in the name of the King crown and convert them. If they do not convert or they resist, kill them. Now that kind of religion has nothing to do with Jesus.
No, subdue all infidels.
Right.
So in this speech, you are the speech is in the tradition of obviously Bob Omawale, Malcolm X, and Dr. King.
And Jesus.
Right, the doctor, yeah, saying, Dr. King saying that, I can hear God saying to America, "You're too arrogant. If you don't change your evil ways, I'll rise up and break the backbone of your power." And you go through and document all of the genocide, chattel slavery, all of the wars, the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and just saying that God is not mocked. I mean, this is what happened. But there was one thing that I mean, obviously, I mean, I'm spiritual. I'm not associated with any of the world's organized, institutionalized religions. But you quoted from Psalm, I think Psalm 137, and I think this is extremely relevant to what we saw taking place. Not just not just with the massive genocide against the indigenous people, of the Americas, but even for people who can't connect to that, even in these recent wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Somalia. You quoted verse 8 and 9 that said, "O daughter of Babylon, doomed to destruction, happy is he who repays you for what you have done to us, he who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks." So now here's the psalmist saying that people who will kill children will be blessed. And so when people, when people like Bush and Obama and Trump and Biden are, using drones and cruise missiles, and they're killing innocent people, 70,000 civilians in Afghanistan. Biden's last bomb killed a family of 10, that included 7 children. This is obviously something that they believe. I mean, he who seizes your infants, blessed is he who seizes, your infants and dashes them against the rocks.
Those are Jews. They're not talking about Babylonians. The Jews are saying, happy is the one that takes Babylonian babies and murders them to repay them for what they've done to us. And that's a different sermon, Margaret. That is the day of Jerusalem's fall.
Okay, so that was a part of the splice. Okay. But I mean, this is what we see with, here's Biden, and we see like all of these crimes against humanity that Europeans have committed. If we just start with the disaster of 1492 with Columbus, 56 million people in this hemisphere are dead within 108 years by 1600. And we see this continuously. Biden saying, we will not forgive, we will not forget. When Black people are killed, for example, Dylan Roof kills 9 Black people in the Church of Denmark Vesey in Charleston. The guy hasn't even gotten used to his cell before Black people start talking about we forgive.
That was not, and that was forced, Makaru. The politicians forced the families of those 9 to say that. I have a member who was the #1 graduate of CTS, whose first cousin was killed, and she is saying, "Hell to the no. We're not forgiving, and I ain't signing nothing, and I'm not getting in front of no TV." They did that. That was a political move. You're not affiliated with organized religion, so you might not know the answer to this. Jack might know it. Jack, in the AME church, when a pastor dies, who does the eulogy?
Well, my guess is the associate pastor.
No, AME.
I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know.
The bishop.
Okay.
The bishop comes, right?
Not the president of the United States, the bishop.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing was political. And the bishop in that district ordered me out of the state. I was running a revival. Ordered me out of the state because they knew I was coming to the funeral.
Wow,
Okay.
they didn't want you at the funeral.
No.
Wow.
Where do you think the cameras would have been?
It would have been on
Oh.
you, right?
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah,
brother, you were talking about, if I may, you were talking about the carnage. Just looking at this statistic from UNICEF, they estimated that over 500,000 Iraqi children were killed as a result of sanctions and the callousness, the psychopathic nature of many of the leaders. I can recall Madeleine Albright told 60 Minutes that 500,000 deaths of children were worth it. Okay, so here again, we're talking about, just a psychopathic personality. President of the United States said, we won't forget it. Of course, Toussaint Overture knows this. The Cuban government, the Vietnamese government, the Iranian, Venezuelan, Haitian governments all know what's coming next. We're talking about sanctions. We're talking about the IMF reneging on loans or what have you. No, we have a historical precedence that, what the Afghan government is about to deal with is similar to, what governments have dealt with in the past. So, Biden was, go ahead, Reverend Doctor.
I said, you're right. I was agreeing with you.
So, Reverend Wright, you, like you said, you had traveled to Libya, for the Jamahariya there with Minister Farrakhan, and Barack Obama, who after giving the speech that made everybody think that he was anti-war. I think it might have been in 2003. He gave this speech. He said he wasn't opposed to all wars. He was just opposed to
Dumb
dumb
wars.
wars. And then he proceeds to engage in an absolute asinine war that has resulted in not only the overthrow of the Jamahariya and the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi, but it set off a wave of terrorism that African people are being killed in Nigeria, Niger, Chad, Cameroon, Burkina Faso, Mali today. Having been to Libya and seeing how that country was developed, what were you thinking as this war was unfolding, being led by a man that had sat in your congregation?
Politicians are accountable to the people who put him in office. During a town hall meeting at the end of Obama's second year at Chicago State, Minister Farrakhan was on the panel. He said nothing the first half of the day. The moderator said, before we break for lunch, Minister, you've been sitting quietly taking notes. I know you have something to say. He said, I will hold my remarks. They said, no, tell us something. Give us something for lunch. He said, Mr. Obama is accountable. And don't forget this. Mr. Obama was selected before he was elected. And he is accountable to the people who selected him. He was selected by AIPAC, AIPAC. He was selected by Zionists. He was selected by bankers.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't select nothing. You can hardly elect a garbage man. He's not accountable to you. he's accountable to those who selected him. So what I felt was he's being true to his colors as a politician.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Didn't
Yeah.
Smokey,
Go ahead.
didn't Smokey sing about that? Dance to the piper.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If you dance to the music, play to the piper.
There you
He,
go.
he became the fulfillment of what Fred Hampton predicted in 1969
Right.
when he was talking about black capitalists. He said, "Before you know it, you'll have a Negro imperialist," and that's what we wound up with. Let me ask you this, Reverend Wright: as you view the landscape of the United States and perhaps of the world in 2021, based on your prophetic vision. Uh, where do you see this country? Where do you see this country headed, and what should people of African descent be preparing for?
Good question.
Two different questions, Jack. Two questions.
Thank you, sir.
I see it heading for disaster. I see it unraveling. And I think we ought to take seriously the first word of your podcast, which is what? African.
Liberation Media.
African liberation.
Yes, sir.
We need to take seriously Pan Africanism. And what we ought to be doing is making sure we understand we are part of what John Henry Clark said, and what Baba Asa says, Association of Black Psychologists said, Association of Black Social Workers said, we are a part of an African community. And stop putting hope in this country, put our hope linking arms, hearts, and purposes with the African community, global African community.
I say.
Reverend Doctor, we have talked about from time to time the existence of neocolonial puppets as buffers. You have any thoughts as to how we can address this problem that prevents the realization of Pan-Africanism, sir?
Because I'm almost 80, because of what I've seen, I think it goes back to the schools, starting at preschool and raising up a generation of children, us old heads, like Clyburn, us old heads are hopeless.
That's true. Very true. Very, very
One of
true.
my sermons, I forgot which book it's in, I gave an illustration of how Eskimos kill wolves. They take a dagger, put the cut in the body, smear with blood, let it freeze. Another cut, let it freeze. Third cut, let it freeze. Fourth cut, let it freeze. Stick the dagger down in the ice, handle first. When the wolf smells human blood, it comes and starts licking the blade. The warmth of his tongue melts that ice of blood, and the fiercer he looks, the hotter it becomes. Tastes so good, the wolf doesn't realize when he's out of blood and the blade is cutting his own tongue.
Mm.
And he's swallowing his own blood and dying, strangling on his own blood. That's the way it is with integration.
Mm.
Get a little taste of Harvard, a little taste of Yale, a little taste of Ados, a few bucks from APAC, marry a white woman, get a seat on the Supreme Court,
Brother Amos, the hats.
dead.
Dead.
So teach the younger generation, stay away from that knife.
That's
Yes,
right.
there are problems in Guinea. Yes, there are problems in Nigeria. Yes, there are problems in South Africa. But that's family. And the family needs to decide how to solve this problem. There are problems in Haiti. But we don't need white folk telling us how to solve our problems. Thank you very much. We can do that ourselves. But that's not going to happen with people my age. People my age are so, that blade is so far down their throat, they're just strangling on their own blood. Have you seen Papa Asa's on the making of a sheepdog?
Mm. No, no, sir.
In the book, The Maroon Within,
Mhm.
it's 2.5 pages long,
Mm-hmm.
literally 2.5 pages long. Asa said he was watching the Discovery Channel one night and he saw how sheepdogs are made. And it opened his eyes to our problem and why I'm saying focus on Amos's kids. You make a sheepdog, you take a German Shepherd or a Collie at birth away from its mother and put it in with a litter of sheep. Let it nurse on the sheep's breast. Let it get the sheep's milk in its body. Let the sheep's DNA start running through its body. Let it grow up with the sheep, play with the sheep, romp with the sheep, graze with the sheep, and when it becomes fully grown, it will attack not only another German Shepherd and kill it, it will attack the owner if the owner looks like it's going to bother one of those sheep.
Mm.
Because you got sheep DNA running through your body. And that's what happens with some Negroes. You get them away from their HBCUs, saying HBCUs, they no good. You need to go to a good school like University of Colorado, University of Pennsylvania, University of Virginia, VCU, University of Florida, Harvard Grad School, Harvard Law School. Let them become editor of the Harvard Law Review. So when King says, I have a dream, Obama can say, I have a drone.
I'm a rattle at hard, Reverend Doctor. Trust me. I catch it whenever I go to a family reunion, but I am a rattler at heart.
Okay.
Yeah. When the dark clouds are gathering on the horizons and thunder and lightning pierce the sky, when faith is but a glint in the eye of a born rattler, and all hope seems lost. When the center of the chest grows weary, and the muscles in the legs grow tired from a hard charging rattler linebacker, you must always remember that the rattlers will strike and strike and strike again.
I know several Floridian and family folk who love you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Well, Reverend Wright, we certainly appreciate you giving us your time this evening. It's been extremely edifying for us and for our audience. And we just wish that the Holy Creator, Ptah, Atum, and Ammon Ra continue to bless you, and that you have a happy and joyous 80th birthday with your family. And we'll be in touch, and continue on, stay strong. We're so glad that you were able to do this for us today, and we're gonna stay in this struggle for Bibi Fahodie, African liberation. Asante Sana, Reverend Wright.
Asante Sana, brother. Thank you. The closest I've come to Malcolm and King.
Siyabonga.